Finally, Ukrainians discovered the weak spot of Putin and hopefully they will press against it. Also, the fight for power within the Russian presidency begins, and at least 70% of Russians are in support of stopping this war. They are simply tired. But more about all of this in just a couple of minutes. What's up, investors? It's the Russian dude. And today, let's actually go straight to the point and talk about the upcoming presidential elections in Russia, the fight for power, and what Putin wants to do about all of this, trying to save the rule over Russia. And so yes, the presidential elections in Russia are set to happen on March 17, 2024, and Putin has not yet officially announced his candidacy, even though it will be absolutely 300% obvious he will run for the presidential spot, and 600% he will win. And just once again, even though his run for presidency is not yet official, there are many things which already started to work, let's call it, in his favor. Such as, for example, and I was also talking about this a couple of weeks ago, is that Russia adopted a new law that if there is a polling station during a martial law, or there is anything related to some kind of secret information, basically you cannot film in those places, and the independent media is not allowed to cover presidential elections. Only federal approved media is allowed to do this, which are obviously all of them pro-Putin, pro-Russian. But nevertheless, right now Putin, unfortunately for him, he cannot use the war as the main topic of his presidential campaign, simply because there is no achievements, there is no success of the Russian army on the front lines. That is why he somehow had to focus on other things, such as, for example, mutual hatred towards the West, and that Russia is the greatest country in the world, while still trying to retain the positive outlook towards Russian-Ukrainian war. And even though Putin will be once again, unfortunately for the Russian people, the one and only presidential candidate, so he will win no matter what, the fight for power still begins. It is just not 2 people or 3 or 5 people are fighting for the power, it is one person fighting to retain his power. And now let's quickly talk about statistics, specifically how the attitude of regular Russian people is changing towards Russian-Ukrainian war. And by the way, speaking about statistics, guys, I recently noticed that 49.9% of you guys are still not subscribed to my channel. This has been the same static number for the last 3 weeks, and I mean, this is relatively unacceptable. In Russia, you would go to jail for this. But don't worry, we're not in Russia, we're here in a nice and cozy the Russian Dude channel, so I'm looking at you, Adam, Steven, Tyler, Mark, Anthony. Yes, just looking right in your eyes. You guys and everyone else, you have to subscribe. This is just only taking one click, so go ahead, like and subscribe to my channel, por favor. Thank you so much. You can also follow me on Instagram. I'm traveling right now in different places, so you can just follow along. The link is down below. And so yes, so speaking about statistics, at least 70% of Russians at this very moment, at the moment of recording this video, they're in support that this war must be stopped. And the biggest percentage of the age group of young Russians who want this war to be over is the people under 24 years old. So there is still hope in the next generation of Russians. But most importantly is that in comparison to the previous survey, the percentage of Russians in favor of stopping all the hostilities already increased. So more and more people, they start realizing the meaninglessness of this entire situation. And as you can see, the major problem that Putin is facing right now is how to retain this positive attitude towards war and just in general support of whatever is happening right now and support for his own regime without being able to directly talking about it. The question is, what is he going to do? And first of all, also something we've been talking in my previous videos is that he will be using his minions to push his narrative, so it will be basically his ideas will be communicated to the people. It is just not him who'll be talking about them. And you already remember the example with Minister of Defense Sergei Shoigu, the Minister of Foreign Affairs Sergei Lavrov, representative of Russia in the United Nations Vasily Nebenzia, and many other lower-ranking officials. But also what some of you probably have missed is that long time ago the president of Belarus Alexander Lukashenko, he also mentioned that yeah, Russia and Ukraine might have some kind of negotiations and they can kinda rent Crimea. So it will be 1 year under Russia, 1 year under Ukraine, and 1 year after Russia, and moving forward, this is the scenario. Obviously ridiculous, but this is what he said, and I'm sure Putin will be very positive towards this potential scenario. And then it was even the president of Chechnya, Ramzan Kadyrov, who also mentioned that, guys, right now Russia is in the war, there's a lot of internal and external problems, so you know what? Let's cancel presidential elections. He did not say that Putin is the only president who can lead us to victory, but it was obviously implied to this. The second way Putin can deliver his opinions without being direct about it is by making serving in the army to be very prestigious and financially rewarding. Such as, for example, according to the report by the British intelligence of last month, Russians were increasing the military budget, and recently it has been confirmed that now the budget is 70% higher than the last year and has been the highest since the Soviet Union, and a lot of this money will go towards military-related people. There will be bonuses, high salaries, and there will be always taking care, the government will be taking care of your family in case you're injured or deceased in Ukraine, which most of the times is not true. And the third way Putin can make all this happen is that if there is a carrot, there must be also a stick. And what I mean by that is that other government representatives must make it feel scary and shameful to avoid going to the military. And by doing this, they will cover two major categories of people. Category number one are those who will go voluntarily, mainly for the money, and the category number two who will be forced to go to the military. And such as, for example, according to already notorious Mr. Kartapolov, he mentioned that hospitals and other government facilities, even including mobile operators, they should transfer the data of the citizens to the government of Russia so that they know their most current address, phone numbers, and just in case they need to, emails. And another notorious representative of the Russian authorities, Mr. Sobolev, he was talking about those Russians who left the country when the war started, and now he's saying, these are traitors, these are bad people, we are not waiting them back, but if they are coming back, their life should become miserable. Yes, exactly, as you can see, these are the type of Russian authorities who make it look like shameful and pretty bad to avoid going to the military. And until the spring of the next year, the regime of Putin will be in this state of complete vagueness, uncertainty and doubt. And for Putin right now, every single day counts. He wants to win in these presidential elections. I mean, win, quote unquote, as soon as possible, so then he can escalate. Because as of right now, not too many Russian people are volunteering to go to the army to fight in Ukraine. The brainwashing is not yet complete, and if Putin decides to do something prematurely, he is risking some kind of retribution. And Ukraine, they obviously know this as well, that every single day counts. Such as, for example, according to the Secretary of the National Security and Defense Council of Ukraine, Oleksiy Danilov, Ukraine has only 4 months left to do something major on the battlefield, because then the presidential elections will happen, Putin will win, and Russia will most likely completely turn around its foreign policy and budget towards fully military supportive. And most likely Putin will do a big escalation, because he will be elected president for the next 4 years at least. And so right now, the main question of the video. What do you think is the main pain point of Putin? If you want, even pause the video and let me know down in the comments what do you think it is. So 3, 2, 1. In my personal opinion, the biggest pain point of Putin is his beloved Crimea. It is pretty much his only potential legacy which will be left to the people of Russia after he is gone. And if he loses it, there will be pretty much nothing left after he is gone. The Russian people will hate and forget him, which is the last thing he wants after ruling the country for more than almost 2 decades. And many Western military experts, including Ukrainians, they also agree with this potential narrative that yes, as soon as you endanger Crimea, this is when you can force Putin to talk. And what are the main ways how this might happen? Well, first of all, you already know that there are combat activities in the south of Ukraine and in the east. There is not as much happening in Zaporozhye, but there is still some. In the Kherson region, Russians previously removed a lot of their soldiers and transported them to Zaporozhye region and also to the east of Ukraine, where right now in the east of Ukraine is obviously one of the biggest meat grinders for Russians, happening in Avdiivka, and the losses of Russians are now even exceeding the losses which they suffered long time ago in Bakhmut. Because of this, Ukrainians were able to skillfully capture and retain Russians in the east of Ukraine, and this is where a lot of losses of Russians are happening pretty much every single day, while simultaneously, slowly but surely resuming their attacks in Kherson region, what is happening pretty much right now. They are establishing the bridgeheads and gaining footholds, and Russians are simply not able to push them back. And because Zaporozhye right now is one of the least intense areas, in case Ukrainians decide to attack this area as well, this is when they might catch Russians by a complete surprise. As a result of this, in case Ukrainians are successful, they will simply hold Russians in the east. They will hopefully cross Kherson region and start approaching Crimea from the northwest, and potentially, even if they will be able to break through Zaporozhye front line, the next big major city will be Melitopol, which is by some people called as the key to Crimea. And as a result of this, as you can see from this map, Ukrainians will be advancing from the northwest, from the north, and also from the northeast of the peninsula, pretty much completely separating it from the rest of occupied Ukraine, with only one last thing keeping Russians from supplying themselves on this peninsula, which is obviously the Crimean bridge located right here, but Ukrainians in the past already successfully targeted it several times, so what stops them from doing it once again? And when and if Ukrainians are successful in this major operation, which can turn the entire war upside down, this is when once again Putin potentially can start talking. He will possibly be ready to surrender some territories, such as Kherson, Zaporozhye, or maybe even some parts in the east, or even all combined, just for the opportunity to keep Crimea, his only legacy to the Russian people. And Ukrainians, they do realize that the time right now is running out, so they have to act quickly. So guys, if you want to see and continue following this war along with me, just please once again subscribe to my channel. It only takes one click. There will be some good news in the future. Thank you so much my patrons for your support, and see you on Tuesday.